Hello, Facebook. Matt Dinsmore here at Direct Primary Care. I thought I'd spend some time providing some information about cost sharing networks. I think there's a lot of questions about cost sharing networks, and because of my job, I've had to become quite familiar with them. And I thought I could just share some basic information about them, what they are, and who they could work for, and who could be at risk if they had it. So, without further ado, cost sharing networks. All right. So first is the basics. So there are a lot of cost sharing networks. If we could be very broad about it, generally, cost sharing networks can all agree to this. They are not insurance. So that tends to freak a lot of people out when they're saying, well, I'm getting something that is not insurance, but it's somehow paying for my healthcare. How is that possible? So you have to remove yourself from the insurance world a little bit and think about having your healthcare covered in a little bit different way. And so health cost sharing networks are not insurance. What they are is they're a group of people that are coming together that are agreeing to share one another's medical bills. Simple as that. It's like if you joined a membership and you said, hey, the 10 of us are going to share one another's bills, we're going to submit it to one another. That's basically what you're doing, except with a lot of other people. The second thing is that cost sharing networks are generally major medical plans, i.e. they don't cover primary preventative care services, kind of simple labs, imaging, things along those lines. But what they will cover is major catastrophe. You know, if you break your leg, you have a heart attack, you have cancer, something along those lines, a lot of times they will kick in then and have coverage after you've paid your initial insurable amount. You know, in the insurance world, they call it deductible, and cost sharing networks, they call it multiple different things. But it's basically what you are responsible to pay after that. You can submit the rest to be shared amongst the community. The third kind of basic principle is that they are a lot more affordable. That's their selling point, right? They're about 20 to 60% less than typical health insurance. And that's A, because they don't have to follow Affordable Care Act guidelines, and they don't have to cover a ton of different things. And then B, they don't cover primary and preventative care coverage. And so they're able to kind of limit their expense. So they operate more like traditional insurance in the sense of like house insurance. You know, you pay for your light bulbs and air filters and furnaces, but when your roof blows off, thank goodness if you have house insurance, because you can submit it then, right? You pay your $3,000 deductible, but then you get a new roof thanks to your health insurance. That is how cost sharing networks tend to work, like more like a traditional insurance, if you will. Though they can't guarantee coverage. That brings us to our fourth point, which makes a lot of people feel nervous. Now, the track record is very good. Like in the last 30 years, at least the religiously affiliated cost sharing networks have, for every bill that was submitted for coverage, has been successfully covered. That met the guidelines. So not too bad of a track record over the past 30 years. But there are some limitations that are kind of worth discussing in further detail as well. All right. Continually, broadly, you could summarize the cost sharing networks into two groups: religiously affiliated cost sharing networks and non-religiously affiliated cost sharing networks. Each of them have different hoops that you must jump through in order to be a part of their group. So of the religiously affiliated cost sharing networks, you have, these are like the MediShare, Samaritan, Christian Health Ministries. Those are kind of the big three. And with all three of those, you have to sign a faith statement saying that, yep, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, you know, I'm a disciple. And sometimes you need a pastor to sign off and say, yep, you are indeed a follower of Jesus Christ and follow these principles. So you have to sign what they call a faith statement. You also have to agree to a healthy lifestyle and kind of a biblical lifestyle, which would mean that, like, let's say you get drunk on alcohol. They'd say, hey, biblical principle says that we don't get drunk on wine because it leads to debauchery. And so therefore, if you get drunk and you fall and you break your leg, we're not going to cover that because you were doing something unbiblical. If you are happily married for 10 years and all of a sudden you get an STD, something probably unbiblical occurred there, and they may not cover that cost, right? Also, what's interesting is the Affordable Care Act exempted the cost sharing networks, the religiously affiliated cost sharing networks, from the tax penalty. So if you had MediShare, you want to get a tax penalty at the end of the year. Now, 2019, there is no tax penalty for what that's worth. All right, for the non-religious affiliated cost sharing networks, there's no faith statement, but generally you have to sign something that says, yep, I'm going to live a healthy lifestyle and I won't do drugs and illegal things, because they too won't cover that. They're a little bit harder of a network to get into. It's not impossible, but sometimes it's easier to be covered, usually through like an employer group, or if you're part of an association, then you can get in these cost sharing networks. There's plans where you can be an individual and get a cost sharing plan, but just kind of a real generality. And then these are not exempt from the tax penalty if it ever does return. Okay, so who is this for? Well, there's a couple people that I see that this is for, and generally is like the uninsured. So the person who can't afford insurance or doesn't believe in it or whatever, they can get a major medical plan that, at least if they have a major catastrophe where they're going to get hundreds of $1,000s worth of medical bills, they can, with their cost sharing network, they can submit that to be shared with the group and have that covered. Colds, flus, preventative care, nope, that won't be covered. But the thing that's going to save you from bankruptcy could be your cost sharing plan, right? And it's a lot more affordable, so it can be more reasonable than going through the healthcare exchange. The second kind of group that could benefit from it is those who are paying for insurance themselves and are feeling the weight, the burden. It's like, this is so expensive. Why am I paying $1,200 to $1,500 for my family? We don't even go to the doctor that often. Those are the type of people that I see kind of gravitates to the cost sharing network. One, because it's so much more affordable and they can cover their whole family and they can kind of decide on their plan and feel better about where their costs are going. All right, and then 3 is generally those who are healthy could benefit from the cost sharing network. I'm not saying that those who are unhealthy or have chronic conditions cannot benefit, but it's just a little bit easier. Like if you have a cost sharing network and you're not going to the doctor a ton, then really what you're utilizing the cost sharing network is a major medical plan. Okay. All right, and then I kind of wanted to highlight, of course, maybe if it'll let me go there. No. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Is how a cost sharing plan pairs really well with the direct primary care membership. So you see that the cost sharing memberships don't cover major medical, but your direct primary care membership covers primary and preventative care costs. Cost sharing networks don't cover prescriptions. Hey, but you get generic meds at cost through your direct primary care membership. You only get imaging coverage if it was part of a catastrophe with cost sharing, as well as labs. It's only covered if it's a catastrophe. All of that's included within your at cost through your monthly membership fee. 50% off imaging, labs at cost, even procedures are included in the monthly membership fee, not to mention telemedicine services. So you can kind of see how this can pair really well together to create this total healthcare solution that is still, 40 to 60% less than your typical health insurance plan. All right, who's at risk though? Who's vulnerable through having cost sharing network? I believe you could summarize it in 2 groups. One is those who have chronic conditions that are requiring oversight of a specialist. So if your chronic condition requires you to see a family medicine physician, hey, your direct primary care membership can help pay for that. You're paying for that anyway. But if you have a chronic condition that needs to be seen by a specialist, that's outside your direct primary care network and probably isn't expensive enough to be shared by your cost sharing network. So those are going to be out-of-pocket costs that you're going to have to pay. And then branded medications. This is also kind of where insurance can be beneficial, is branded meds. Your insurance can help pay for branded medications, whereas your direct primary care membership is really giving you generic meds at cost. And then your cost sharing network will only pay for those if it's part of a catastrophe, which is a little less often. Okay. So a lot of times people come to this conclusion, they're like, all right, well, that sounds really great. I feel like, I might not be one of those vulnerable groups, but they still give me the stink eye. And they're like, is it real? Is it real, man? Okay, well here, what are the risks? First off, it's been around for a long time. So it's been around for over 30 years, which is a pretty good track record. And there are over 1 million people on cost sharing networks. That's a lot of people trusting their healthcare to a cost sharing network. If there was a lot of bad reviews, I'm not sure the memberships would be this high. About for every 10 people who sign up for insurance, 1 person is signing up for a cost sharing network. So I've heard. Again, you're saving 20 to 60% on health insurance. You'll feel a lot better. You'll get the best care through direct primary care. I'm biased, but it's true. You get same-day access, extended appointments, 24/7 telemedicine services. And then your mother said to share. That might be the most important message in this whole presentation. When John and Susie get in a car wreck and you're writing a check for their medical bill because of that car wreck, you're going to be feeling a lot better for your premium. So your ideology just may align better with a cost sharing network than a premium of insurance. All right, that's it. If you have a cost sharing network, can you leave a little comment about whether you like it or not? If you have any questions, please put in the comments below and I'll hit a tag to our link later.